What's good, people? This is Will the producer, aka Riverside Productions. Today I'm going to show you how to use your EQ more accurately when mixing so you make the right informed decisions. Let's jump into the DAW and we'll get on straight with the process. Okay guys, so we are now in the DAW of choice, which is Logic Pro X. This technique will work in any DAW with any EQ. It's just that I am a Logic Pro X user. For the example in this video, I'm working on this instrumental here and I want to EQ a specific sound, which is this sound right here, which is called a harp, and I'm going to play it on its own so you can just hear how it sounds first. Now on its own you can hear the sound quite well, but in the contents of the whole mix I feel like it might just need a boost, so I'm going to be using an EQ and then showing you some of the mistakes that you might be using, or might be doing rather, when working in your own project. So let's listen to it in its entirety. So yeah, I feel like the sound probably needs a bit of a boost around the mid frequencies or higher frequencies. So what I'm going to do is open up a channel EQ in Logic. Now if you're using Logic, you can follow along. As I say, this technique works for any EQ, any DAW. So what I'm going to do for this sound, just for the purpose of this tutorial, is I'm going to do like a boost around 1.5k, and this is what a lot of beginner producers do. They'll boost it up like that, and then maybe they'll adjust the Q. For this purpose I'll just put it at about 1, and then they'll listen back to it and go, alright, that's it. Now as you can see, what I've done here, if we look very closely, we're almost boosting this specified frequency 1470 Hertz at almost 10 dB, right? But when you look at it like this, it doesn't seem like that much because of the window. But if we actually right click where the numbers are, we can set the dB amount of what the EQ shows. Now if we put it at 12, this is way above the scale. You see, look, we're at way above 6 in terms of our boost. Now, so that I can actually show you what I'm doing, we'll put it at about 30. And again, we are here and we're boosting around, well, specifically 8 dB. And because we're in a more zoomed in mode, we can see that there. And again, if we go to 12 and then just turn this down, when we're doing our boosts in our EQ, if we decrease this value here, which is the dB range, we can get more specific with it. And when it comes to EQing, you don't really want to be going crazy and boosting like 6 dB here, and then maybe in the low mids another 6 dB. To get your frequencies to stand out, you're better to look into other ways of rectifying that, and that could be through frequency masking, or maybe just panning the sound, or maybe there's just another sound that's in the way. So if you don't have channel EQ, let's say you've got another EQ, so for example let's go to Fab Filter, right? Fab Filter, it's the same. What you need to do is just adjust the dB range, and again let me just take off this low cut because that's how mine opens up automatically. To be more specific with my boosts, or cuts for that matter, we'll just set the dB range by 3, and as you can see, when I start to boost sounds, I can be more specific with how much volume I'm giving it, because when it's in this mode here, you might just do a boost like that and think, oh, that's a relatively small boost, but you don't realize that actually it's a lot. It's almost touching 6 dB, but it's because you've got the view in that mode. And even still, you might have it in 30 dB, and then like a boost like that, you might think, oh yeah, a little boost there. Well, actually you're boosting it there by 10 dB, that specific frequency. Okay. The next example that I'm going to show you how to be more accurate with your EQ is this one, right? So we're going to go back to, in fact, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go to another sound, okay? So we'll go to this marimba sound here, which sounds like this on its own. Right, and then we'll open up our EQ again, and for this example, I'll open up FabFilter's Q3 again, okay? Now, remember to set your range for your dBs. Again, I'm going to put it at 3 dB so that I can be more specific at what I'm doing. And I'm just going to listen to this sound quickly and just make a boost or a cut somewhere. Okay, so what I'm going to do is do a cut at 436, okay? And we'll just do a cut of about minus 3 dB, okay? Now, again, because our range is on 3 dB, we can actually see how deep the cut is here, right? I know I keep talking about the same thing, guys, but look, if I had that on 30 dB, you think, oh, that's not much of a big cut. Let me put that way down there. Now, keep it at 3 dB. Now, the next tip to accurately use your EQ is this, right? So now that we've made that change with the EQ, we need to decide whether or not to add volume to that sound now, because when you boost or cut certain frequencies with an EQ, you either lose volume or gain volume, and you need to rematch that so that it's a fair comparison. And the best way to do this is probably to use an LUFS meter. So what I can do here is open one of those up, and the one that I use is in Logic, okay, and it's called a loudness meter, okay, and we want to look at the integrated value. So what we're going to do first is see what the value is without the cut, okay. So we're going to just disable that EQ for a second and then play the sound and start this loudness meter so that you can analyze the sound. Alright, so the loudness of this is anywhere between minus 28.7 to minus 30. Okay, but if we then put on the EQ now, where we've done the cut at 3 dB, we're now gonna remeasure the sound to see if it's lost or gained any volume. So what we do is just play the sound again from the start and just press the start button on the loudness meter. Some loudness meters you don't press start, but the one in Logic you do. We'll do it again. So in this circumstance, by doing the cut, we've actually increased the perceived loudness of this sound, because that's what the integrated LUFS meter does. So we can actually bring this sound down, but actually sometimes by doing cuts, it can actually help a sound cut through the mix. So that's it pretty much for the video, guys. The two tips here are: when you're EQing, make sure you set the scale that will usually be on the right of your EQ, so that when you're doing your boosts or your cuts, you know exactly by how much dB you're doing it by. Sometimes by visually you think that, you know, oh, this small cut or this small boost here doesn't look much, but when you actually look at the meter in which mode you're working in, it is. And secondly, is just the volume match when you're EQing, because a lot of times when you boost frequencies, you might actually need to turn down the overall loudness of the sound. And in, for example, the channel EQ in Logic, for example, if you was to say boost the sound here, you can actually turn down the overall volume after the EQing, which is by using this slider here. And a lot of EQs have this volume control built in after you've done your adjustments. And if they don't, you can always just use a gain plugin after the EQ. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video. I hope it's helped. If you found it useful, hit the like button. And if you have any questions, just drop a comment down below. And I'll see you in the next video.